If you are new to our channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
Many people think that a lot of stuff at the grocery store, or the big box store, whatever you want to call it, are items that have to be made in massive factories or big facilities in which you can't make it home. There's a chemistry procedure there, and they put it in a can, and you bring it home, and you have it. But there are
magic,
yeah. But we're going to go over 4 different items here in which you can make very five that you can make very, very easily in your own kitchen with just some minimal amount of knowledge. It's not like you have to have a degree in science in order to accomplish these items here.
Right. So,
well, let's start with a very one that's we can do pretty much any time here because fall's around. It's raw cider vinegar.
Right, and this you can make with apple scraps, pear scraps, or pineapple scraps. So you're most likely going to make it with apple or pear at this point. Maybe pineapples usually get cheap in like January, so maybe you could try it then too. But basically what you're going to take, you can use the whole apple, you just have to cut it up, but typically what you're going to do is you're going to use the scraps. So say you're going to make some applesauce or an apple pie or something, you would take the scraps, so the peels and the cores, and what you do is you make your own fermented vinegar. So like you can find, a lot of people are using raw apple cider vinegar, so this is that same thing. There's many uses for it, but you can make your own.
Yeah. And again, you can only do this with 3 different items: pears, apples, and pineapple.
And it's a pretty straightforward process. It takes a few weeks. First, you take your scraps, you put water, and you want to use either a filtered water or non-fluoride water. So,
we use well water.
We use well water. But if you have city water, you're going to have to either buy some distilled water or filter your water because you don't want that. Some of the stuff that's in the city water, and that's okay. So you put it in a jar. We use half-gallon mason jars. You put some sugar, and there's recipes online, and we have, I think, a video on it.
A couple of videos, yes.
And some sugar, and then if you have some raw vinegar, maybe you have some in the house, or you have some that you made, you can add some of that too to kind of get the process started. If you don't, it's okay.
Yeah, it's considered a starter. It helps jumpstart the procedure, so it maybe accelerates your time, a couple of days in the long run.
Right. So then you let that sit for about a week, and you want to stir it. Then every day, so stir it every day because you want to put like a coffee filter or something on top so that it can breathe, but so that bugs don't get it. Right.
So that's one thing in which you can do.
And then it's pretty straightforward after that. Tea, you can make your own tea. So if you grow herbs, like we grow lemongrass, because I think it's pretty, but also because you can make tea from it. And you can use it in cooking and things like that. But you can dry your herbs. So say you grow mint, lemongrass, what have you. Even something like lemon peels, you can dehydrate those to make your...
Grind them up, to a powder and then put them in a filter bag? Or will you just...
you can just chop them.
Chop them and drop them in and then remove them?
Right.
Okay.
You can use a tea thing, I don't know what it's called, the little reusable ones that are metal. Tea ball.
There you go.
Yeah. So there's that option.
And there's really no limit to what you can infuse into the water. As long as you feel you can tolerate the taste, you can infuse it.
Right.
Okay.
And you can use it to enhance your own tea. Maybe you make black tea often and you want to add some lemongrass to add to the flavor. Go ahead. You don't have to you can kind of be creative.
Another thing in which we can make in our own house is vanilla extract. And this is not the generic or the imitation. This is the true 100% vanilla extract that involves vodka.
Typically, yes. You're going to take some sort of hard liquor. It's typically going to be vodka, or you could do like a white rum as well. And what you do is you take your vanilla beans.
Where do we get the vanilla beans first? We're not able to grow them here in the Wisconsin area.
Well, you can get them from a spice store.
Okay.
There's one that is very well known in the area. There's lots of locations. And
you can also direct order online too, right?
Yep, you can go online too. But if you're looking for local, then you can go local. Spice stores have them. So what you do is you let the vanilla, they sell them vanilla beans, and what you do is you kind of You don't have to. You can chop them up, whatever you want to do. I chop them up so that they have more of a chance to kind of soak.
More surface area as well.
Surface area, yeah. And then you let them sit in the vodka for about a month or so, just depending. You can do this with mint leaves too. I've heard of people doing it with all sorts of stuff. So you would have to kind of look that part up online. But the vanilla has been successful for us. You let it soak, and then for about a month or so. And you don't have to remove the vanilla beans. You can just continue to use it. It'll just enhance the flavor.
Now, do you have to put this in a dark container, or can it be in a light, like clear glass container?
You would want to do a dark container or just put it in a dark area of your home.
Kind of like whenever they brew beer, they put it in a dark container in order to keep it whatever it needs to do. There's a science behind why the bottles are brown and dark colored rather than clear.
Right. I did it. I stored it in a dark container. I got some bottles from, I don't remember where, but I got some bottles, but when I was making it, I made it in a mason jar, and we have this cabinet above our kitchen sink that has like very little light that gets to it, and that's where I put it.
Another thing is broth. Now, broth can be chicken broth, beef broth, vegetable broth. Right, and the procedure is the same in all three, just the ingredients are different, correct?
Right. So the reason why you're doing this is because bone broth has known to have really good properties for your digestion, actually. So people make bone broth because it's good for your digestion. It's also just good for you in general. You're getting a lot of nutrients from those bones. You can do this with vegetables. That's fine. So what I do is, say I got a chicken, like we ate chicken or something, right. Or we got like one of those rotisserie chickens, whatever. I freeze the bones, and if there's meat on there, yeah, that's fine too.
Okay.
What's wrong?
No, I just want to make sure that we didn't have to scrub the bones clean before we froze it, because some people might think that bone broth only has to be bones.
No, you can do that. Some people get chicken feet and do this. So whatever you want. And so then what I do is then I usually, at some point I'm like, okay, I have enough of what would be about 2 chickens. And then I put it in a pot with water, and then I put any kind of vegetable scraps I have, garlic scraps, onion scraps. Say I open the fridge and I'm like, oh, these carrots look kind of questionable. I'm just going to toss them in there. Whatever. Some people will save their vegetable scraps in a freezer bag, and then when they're ready to make the broth, they do that. So there's options like that. So then you just boil it down. I boil it for about 12 hours. I don't boil it for 12 hours. I get it boiling, let it simmer for about 12 hours. I strain it twice at least.
Because we're putting this in a very large pot, and the ingredients are submerged under the water, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so you put in a very large pot. You can add pepper, garlic, whatever flavors. Yeah. I wouldn't add much salt. There's really no necessity for that because you're cooking it for so long. And this is kind of why we're doing it
at home, because the amount of salt that is in these broths that we get from the store is outrageous.
Right.
And the ones we're making at home have a minimal to almost no salt levels in them.
Right.
Okay.
So, and you can, if you decide to make soup with it, you can add salt at that time. I just don't add any salt when I'm cooking it down because I don't see the need for it. So you let it cook down, you strain it, and then I freeze it. You can can it. I've noticed that if I freeze it in jars, even if I leave extra space for the expansion, they still crack for some reason, so you might want to freeze it in freezer bags.
And if we can it, we can do a water bath procedure, or do we have to pressure can the items?
You have to pressure can it.
Okay, pressure can the broth.
Right.
But so the easier way would be gallon freezer bags, fill them about half full, or in quantities in which you know you will use in one use.
Quarts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One usage, so you're not thawing it, taking 2 cups, freezing it back. The repetitiveness there can not be good for the freeze-thaw cycle on it. And then another and this is the same for vegetable, chicken, beef, whatever the case is.
Right.
Another one, our final one, is fruit leathers. We can go to the store and pay very high price for what is called fruit roll-ups. We can do this in our own home.
Sometimes it's called fruit leather.
Yeah, by utilizing a dehydrator with a fruit leather or fruit roll-up tray, which is a plastic, and you can probably construct one of these with like wax paper over your existing dehydrator tray, as long as you allow the air to circulate through the center and the edges. But you can take your favorite fruit and puree it, there's recipes online, and I'm not familiar with the exact recipe in which procedure happens, but you can do it and then dehydrate it and have your fruit leathers or your fruit roll-ups for your kids or for you, and you know what's in it. That's the other thing.
Right. And it's probably a little bit... It's better for you typically, especially because if you use something like strawberries, you're not going to strain the seeds, so you'll have those seeds, which is good fiber for you.
Yeah, so if you, raw vinegar, tea, vanilla extract, broth, and fruit leathers are some things in which maybe you thought you could only was able to buy at the store, but we can also make them in our own home. Thank you for checking out the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener radio show. For more, go to the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com. for full-length in-studio video and podcast replay of Season 1. Season 2 underway and added weekly. Tweet us at TWVG Show or hashtag TWVG to be part of the program.